This is Dave, and I'm here with Ethan, and together we are Dave and Ethan's 2000-inch Weird Al podcast, episode 221-inch.
On this episode, we are joined by Julian Velard to speak about his new album and song featuring Weird Al, and are also joined by musicians Andrew Berg and Mike Huff from their upcoming Weird Al Ska Punk tribute album.
It's Dave and Ethan's 2000-inch Weird Al podcast.
It's a podcast about Weird Al.
It's Dave and Ethan's 2000-inch Weird Al podcast.
Seriously, the whole podcast is about Weird
It's
Al.
Dave and Ethan's 2000-inch Weird Al podcast.
You don't have to listen, but we're glad you are.
Dave and Ethan's 2000-inch Weird Al podcast.
Welcome to episode 221-inch, and a happy anniversary to us, Ethan.
Happy anniversary to us too, Dave!
You know, with our anniversary falling on Valentine's Day, we should probably elaborate so people understand what we are talking about.
I don't think it's an issue. Everybody listening knows that today is the anniversary of you and I being on the set of Weird the Al Yankovic Story and filming our iconic scene in the Cobra Pit.
Ah, yes. Who could forget that fateful day filming at the Virgil in Los Angeles, where we met Erica Pell and Daniel Radcliffe and Michael McKean and Newman. Oh, and that guy who looked like Willie Nelson.
It's a bit surreal to think that that was only 2 years ago. It feels like we've been movie stars for much longer than that, Dave.
Well, luckily we recorded 6 episodes with every excruciating and hilarious detail from that experience.
So be sure to check out episodes 187-inch through 192-inch to relive hearing us relive the journey.
And you may be asking yourself, how can we make this episode any more special?
No, I know what's coming. Our intern Frank told me.
No, not you. I'm talking to our listeners.
Oh, can I talk to our listeners too?
You already are talking to them.
Wow! Well, Dave, I think we should do a world premiere for a brand new song featuring Weird Al this episode.
Wait, was that to our listeners?
No, it was to you. So can we?
Well, I believe intern Frank is still consulting our lawyers, but we shall see. But first, let's move on to what's happening in Weird Al related news.
The Walmart exclusive steelbook release for Weird the Al Yankovic Story has officially started arriving to those who pre-ordered.
While Walmart's website listed them as arriving on February 15th, it appears the official release date was yesterday, February 13th.
So let's talk about the packaging, Dave, now that you and I both have them in our hands.
Okay, well, first off, obviously it's a metal or steel case with clear plastic trays inside of it.
And anyone who's looked at it online knows that the cover has that awesome shot of Daniel up on stage as Weird Al.
And once you open it up, the discs are the same as the 4K Ultra HD Blu-ray and Blu-ray discs, and the inner tray is clear with the image of Daniel Radcliffe, Jack Lancaster, Spencer Treat Clark, and Tommy O'Brien as Weird Al and his band celebrating putting the tape for My Bologna in the mail.
And very fittingly, the back cover of the case shows simply a cassette tape labeled My Bologna.
The package also comes with a removable cardboard insert which shows the contents of each disc.
Now, this is the first Weird Al project on Steelbook, but it's not the first Weird Al appearance on Steelbook. Previously, Pop Star Never Stop Stopping, The Transformers, the movie, and The Naked Gun have each had Steelbook releases.
However, for Dave and Ethan's 2000-inch Weird Al podcast completists, this is the first time that Ethan and myself have appeared in a Steelbook release.
This episode is brought to you in part by vegan burrito restaurant Burrito, home of the 2-pound double wrapped in quesadilla Burrito, and Wizard Burger in Albany, New York. Come on down to Burrito and Burrito your Burrito and Wizard Burger for mouth-watering loaded, dare I say beefy, vegan burgers. From Albany to Uranus, Burrito and Wizard Burger feed the hungry with out-of-this-world, plant-based, real food, always vegan style. Visit burritosquare.com and wizardburger.com to order ahead.
The New Yorker crossword puzzle from Thursday, February 8th had one clue that should be pretty obvious to Weird Al fans.
Question 7 down, with 7 spaces, was singer Yankovic with such parodies as Amish Paradise and Like a Surgeon.
Wow, I don't know that one. I'm only familiar with the Yankovic original songs.
Well, better luck next time, Dave. Like right now, pop quiz, 63 across, 4 spaces, sharp pull.
You know what? I'm just really not that good at crossword puzzles. I don't think you'll yank any answers out of me.
Nice work.
What are you talking about?
Later this month, Rudy Reboots is set to release the next in their series of ska punk compilation cover albums, this time honoring Weird Al.
All right, Ethan, you know what? We're going to have more on that later, so let's just move on to the next item.
Okay. Well, last week it was announced that Weird Al had recorded accordion and a cameo for Julian Velard's new album.
You know what? We can skip that one, too. We'll talk about that one in a little bit.
Well, how about we just get started with our first interview then?
That's what I've been trying to say.
All right, Dave, take it away.
Our first guest is an accomplished singer-songwriter whose Kickstarter for his newest album, In the Middle of Something, caught our eye because it has a very special guest on it. Please welcome to the podcast, Julian Velard. How's it going, Julian?
I'm good. How you doing? Thanks for having me.
We are so psyched to chat with you. Your new album is right now on Kickstarter, so people can help fund it and get some cool stuff in the process. But, of course, we want to hear about this special guest who's on the album. So can you tell us a little bit about that?
Yeah, the special guest is John Flansburgh from They Might Be Giants, one of my favorite art. No, I'm not. Wrong podcast. No.
Wait, is he really on it, though, too?
No. You're like, oh, my God, there's so many people on this thing. No, I have an interesting history with John. I know John very well. No, the special guest, which is still blowing my mind as even the words leaving my mouth, are the fact that the one and only Mr. Weird Al Yankovic is on my new record.
That is so cool.
How awesome. You've got to tell us how Weird Al got involved with this.
Man, it is pretty random. Well, it's not that random, but if you had posed this question to me 6 months ago, or this reality rather, it's a pretty straight line. So I worked on this whole album with a mixer and producer named Dave Way, and Dave is kind of a legend. He's
for sure
had this pretty incredible career over the last 30 years in Los Angeles. I mean, he famously mixed Michael Jackson's Dangerous, but that doesn't stop there because he kind of came out of the 80s working on, under Teddy Riley and working on all this different R&B music. And then as he moved into the, 2000s, he, mixed the big Macy Gray record and also the first big Pink record. And then he moved on to be kind of the mixer of choice for Fiona Apple, who he still works with and has had a working relationship with for, I don't even know, almost 20 years. He mixed Fetch the Bolt Cutters. And then, he also worked on that movie Echo in the Canyon. So, I mean, he has this crazy career, but he mixed and won a Grammy for mixing Mandatory Fun. And what's wild about his relationship with Al is that it actually predates that because I think their wives are friends. So their wives were friends first for like a decade. And I think his wife, Jamie, if I'm getting this right, again, I know this is like the Weird Al podcast, so I don't want to speak out of turn, but I think she may have introduced Al to his wife. I think. I've
heard a different story on how they met, but
okay.
She very well could be related in some way.
I mean, you would know more than me. So that's the context, and they're neighbors and they're friends. And so we had this one song on the record that is a really kind of off-the-wall duet that I wrote with my wife, called We Should Have an Affair. And it's about sleeping with other people and bringing a third into our marriage. And I'd written the song and I brought it to Dave, and it has this whole kind of 2-beat energy, this real musical theater, old school vibe. And he was like, I hear this thing in the middle. We could go to Paris and have this crazy accordion break. And I think I could get Al to come do it. And so as soon as he said that, I was like, well, if it's on you, man. If you can make that happen, I'm in. And sure enough, we made the track. He sent it over to Jay, Al's manager. And Al said, cool, I'll do it.
Incredible.
Yeah. So I got lucky. I mean, it still doesn't really make sense that happened. It's one of those. It feels very LA to me, but it was super organic. It was just that Dave was like, "I'll ask him," and he asked him, and Al said, "Sure," and that's the story.
Well, we're really thankful. I know we are backers of the Kickstarter, so we will get to hear it early anyway. But we did get a little preview of the song. And it's pretty stinking majestic. I mean, that is awesome. And not only do we get some Al accordion, but we get a little vocal cameo, which is a really nice treat. And I was so surprised when I heard it.
Yeah, I was worried because I feel like it's coming off. I don't want it to come off. I mean, I do want it to come off as a collaboration, but he was being so gracious and so classy and professional about everything. It's kind of like a cameo. He just it's like a walk-on in the middle of the song.
Right.
Where there's this whole breakdown, then he just says one line, he disappears. And I think it's because of the nature of the recording, it's not going to be a feature or anything. He's going to be in the track listings, obviously, but for anyone who's listening to it, which I think kind of adds to the kind of the wow factor of it. You just listen to the record and just out of nowhere, it's legitimately Weird Al on the record. It makes no sense. So people, it's just, I think it actually, like, at first I was a little bummed because I obviously wanted to use his name and have him be a part of it. But then as the situation evolved, I started thinking, this might even be better, that it's even more bizarre and strange that it's really supposed to be a dream sequence where we're in Paris and there's an accordion player who comes up and starts staring at us to maybe like get into a threesome, and it turns out it's Weird Al.
As I'm sure happens quite a bit.
Clearly. I mean, listen, this is 2024. Anything can happen.
So being that, you're working with Dave Way and everyone involved is in LA, did you get to meet Al?
I did. No, we did the session together. So I was we did the whole thing and we sat down. He was super cool, super charming, very professional, came in, had learned the music, was ready to go.
Wow,
had some
cool.
great lines. He was playing, and he's a very good accordion player. But there's a couple tricky bits in there. It was that section was actually written by the string arranger because it's a whole string break in the song, and he was stumbling over one note, and then he just goes, "Listen, I said I was the world's." What do you say? Oh, how does he say it? He goes, "I said I was the most famous accordion player in the world. I never said I was the best accordion player in the world." Just kind of on cue, no prompting. I was like, "All right, that's pretty awesome."
Oh, I love it.
But no, he was I was very taken by the fact that, people come in for sessions like that, especially if it's not their thing. And I mean, we're talking about people who don't even have the level of iconography that Al does in our culture. And they come in, and when they get there, they're like, what are we doing? But he literally came in and said, heard the song, thank you for the chart, here we go. And just came straight in and ripped it off. And it was really flattering. And it was really awesome that he had that level of professionalism, even though I'm pretty sure he doesn't even really know who I am. He's really was doing it because of his connection to Dave. Right. Even though weirdly, I have a couple friends who I'm close with, and I think you guys know him, my buddy Mike Duquette.
Yeah.
Who is put out a bunch of what's is it called? Squeezebox? Is that the name of the box set that he put out for Al, or Jukebox?
Yeah,
what's it called? Yeah,
Squeezebox.
Squeezebox, and Mike supervised that whole thing for Sony Legacy, and he's a great music writer. And then I also have another friend, Lex Friedman, who's also a huge Al guy, and he used to run Stitcher, and they had a whole situation of putting out the bootlegs from Al's shows there. So I know a lot of people who are in the Al universe, but
two friends of ours. That's really cool.
Oh, Lex? Okay, great. I mean, Lex, I went to camp.
They've both been on the podcast.
Okay, well then I feel like I'm in great company. No, Lex I've known since I was 12 years old. We went to camp together.
Holy crap!
So that's pretty wild.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, small world. So I mean, he's a very close friend, and as long as I can remember, he's been obsessed with Weird Al. That's the funniest part, is that he was obsessed with Weird Al at age 12. So he's, when he found out, he was excited, a little jealous, but also excited that this was happening. But Al was there because of his relationship with Dave, and they've got this. Dave also mixed Weird. He mixed all the songs for the movie. Mm-hmm. So, but he came in and he treated the session like I was important, if that makes sense. It was very respectful, very cool. And I have to say that was like as someone who has been around this business and done a lot of stuff for, 2 decades, something like that does not go unnoticed. I was like, all right, he's a legend and he's behaving like a legend. This is great,
Oh, that's so great.
Contrary to what the movie would have you believe. No. He was not behaving like Daniel Radcliffe.
Now, Mike Duquette has an involvement in the album as well.
That's right. So I've used Mike. I mean, he's been he's He started as a fan, but then became a really close friend, and we've been friends for a while. And I've used him for the last 3 records or so, just doing various copy stuff, copy editing, because my physical releases tend to be a little bit involved. Case in point, my last record before this, which kind of got stymied by the pandemic, was a live show too, and it was a kind of a really a two-man musical I wrote with a comedian named Joe Sciappa, but it was the album was a album for a musical that never existed. And the name of the album is called Please Don't Make Me Play Piano Man, official Queen's cast recording. So the whole thing when you backed it on Kickstarter was that we were like the producers and we were trying to raise money for our Broadway show to go to Broadway. And the whole show is about me playing piano bars and how I'm not Billy Joel. That's the whole concept of the show. It's about what it means to, and it's all built around the song that I wrote called Please Don't Make Me Play Piano Man, that essentially is what it's all about what it means to be playing Piano Man when you're not Billy Joel, and how the song is essentially an existential prison, and when you play the song, you become the guy in the song. Anyway, but we it's totally bonkers. But the kind of, I think maybe my favorite thing about that record is we made a fake playbill for the physical. So when you got it, it was called a Queen's bill, and it was like a small version of a playbill. And Mike did all the copy. Oh, so cool. It's all written in this weird hyperbolic 70s language of some weird, because when you go through the old playbills in the 70s, there are all these weird essays about the show you're about to see that make no sense. And Mike totally just nails it. You know, he goes in and just, it's like, I don't know who's looking at this stuff. I'm sure I have fans who do, but it's so, anybody who's gotten this piece of physical and read it, and they're just like, what is up? That thing is so crazy. We did fake ads. It was, and backers on Kickstarter could literally buy positions in the playbill. So you could be prop master.
That's great.
Prop master for $80, or like costume designer, or child wrangler. Like it was so absurd. And Mike basically put the whole thing together with me.
That's incredible.
That's so cool.
Looking at your Kickstarter, it seems like you have some interesting things. Maybe not a playbill, but the CD is actually a DVD case, or can you help explain that for me?
Yeah, I mean, so this whole thing, a lot of the inspiration for this stuff is kind of what I would consider, canonically from the great Jewish leading men, primarily Elliot Gould and Albert Brooks. And essentially, I'm trying to make the CD look like it's a part of the Criterion Collection. So when you get it, it's like this weird, lost, late 70s, early 80s Albert Brooks film that you never saw. and which Mike's going to write a whole fake essay for it. I don't know if you get Criterion stuff. So it's going to have it's not going to be as involved as the musical, but it's still going to have this whole thing. Because, who's getting CDs or any physical right now, especially with Kickstarter, really it's just about, at least for someone at my level where I consider myself a real boutique artist, the people who gravitate towards my music, I want the physical to be a real representation of the music and to show that they care. So this is like a limited edition thing. Like I'm only going to make like 300 of them or something. Mm-hmm. So, and they'll only basically be primarily sold in the Kickstarter. So it's I don't know. And I like doing it. It's fun. I mean, it's the Kickstarter basically justifies it monetarily. So I might as well make a cool design and feel like you're buying something that's not just the dumb CD that it charges you too much money for.
Yeah, there's some other great items on your Kickstarters. You can get the B-sides and demos. You can get vinyl. You can get handwritten lyrics, and you get your name in the credits, and even a private Zoom concert. So it's certainly worth checking out the Kickstarter. Would you tell us a little bit about the album itself? What is it about?
Yeah, this album is, it's called In the Middle of Something. It's essentially what I'm going through as a 44-year-old dude with 2 kids. And I've sort of flirted with this with a couple records. The record before my Piano Man album was called Fancy Words for Failure, and that's sort of dealing with similar themes. I've basically been iterating on this idea, but I feel like I finally gotten to the stage where, I am officially in the middle of my life, so I feel pretty confident writing the kinds of songs that would populate that space. I'm not... for years I've been pushing into this idea of I don't just want to write love songs. I want to write songs that are about things. And obviously I think musical theater is the space, and also comedy music, Mm-hmm. Like Al is a great example of that. And I think more recently someone like Bo Burnham, where you can write these original tunes that kind of can come at songs from a different angle. They don't all have to be about these sort of I love you, you love me, or I love you and you don't love me, which I know are containers for much larger ideas. But, you know, there's a song on the new album called I Don't Know, and it's literally a list of all the questions that my daughter asks me every day. And the first line is, Dad, have you ever been in jail? Which is essentially a real question that she asked me once that I was like, what? And then, you know, another song on the record is called Money, I'm in Love with You. And it's essentially a setup about how I have this abusive, toxic relationship with a woman called Money and how I'll sell my wife and my kids and all this stuff. And it's you know, I tried really hard to kind of come at all these songs from different angles that felt appropriate for my age, so that when you were to see me live or hear this music, you would say, I know the person who's singing this stuff. It feels real to me. It's not just a fabrication. Because I feel like that's the only way that I can keep doing this after, you know, the 20 some odd years that I've been writing songs, that, you know, it has to resonate. It has to be true. I can't keep pretending that I'm somebody I'm not, you know? So yeah, I mean, that's really what this is. I feel like the whole record, top to bottom, is just a bunch of songs about fatherhood and marriage and middling success, and, you know, all the fun things that life I guess is about at my age.
Yeah, there's a really fun sound on the album, and there's a sort of tongue-in-cheekness that I really appreciate. And especially, you know, when we're talking about this song, We Should Have an Affair, you were talking about your last album was a soundtrack. I feel like We Should Have an Affair, that could be an entire Broadway musical.
Well, I appreciate that. My wife went to Boston Conservatory and performed professionally for basically since she was 10. And she was in the national tour Miss Saigon. So my love of musical theater is literal, because I am married to a performer who is, you know, now got a master's degree and is a speech pathologist professionally, but she's still a killer performer. So when we were conceiving of this thing, you know, I always knew actually, it didn't even start as a duet. It started as sort of just like this would be a ridiculous thing to sing. And then as it evolved into a duet, you know, I had thought about reaching out to Rachel Bloom to sing it, because I have a relationship with Rachel, and this would be a perfect fit. And then the more Dave and I talked about it, we were like, you know, man, this has to be your wife. It's even funnier if it's your wife singing it. And he was totally right. So really, it was just that sort of oompa, oompa, oompa energy, which obviously lent itself really well to accordion. But it wasn't until we got into the studio to start doing it that all the kind of separate grooves came out, which really brings it into this full Technicolor musical land. It was living more in this kind of 1930s energy, and then that's when we started introducing the rock beat and the disco beat and the whole kind of middle section, which sounds like a Billy Joel song. It just kind of happened that way, and I always figured that song was sort of a showpiece anyway, so we might as well just go for broke and make it as ridiculous as possible.
That's exactly the kind of stuff I like, is as ridiculous as possible, and it works so well.
It's, you know, and I'm a big fan of that too. I think that's something that, like, I mean, I obviously, you can probably tell that kind of my holy trinity of guys or artists around this record are Randy Newman, Harry Nilsson, and Stephen Sondheim. Those are probably they're up there if they're not at the very, very tippy top. Or Sondheim is probably my number one. And I think, you know, Al, I actually think he is sort of part of that lineage in a different way. You know, he's definitely coming at it more from a commentary standpoint. But, you know, that's sort of why I think I've always felt a kinship with the kind of funny songs, because I think Randy Newman writes very funny songs, but they function as regular songs. They're not necessarily humorous songs. And I think I lean more in that side of things, but I've always felt a real connection just to having funny lyrics, or having lyrics that feel like they really work as comedy. And obviously Al is, you know, I mean, he's the dude. I mean, the only other person that I can think of, when I first saw the Bo Burnham special, I mean, I've been a fan of his for years, but when I saw Inside, I think I literally had a month or two where I was basically just going to quit. I was just like, this is it. Like, this is the ultimate achievement to me of everything, of everything I ever could want to say with music. I'm like, I'm done. And it took me, I had to kind of crawl out of that cave. It really, it probably had to do something with a global pandemic too, but
maybe,
maybe a little bit. But I have a lot of respect for that style of writing. And I do love that, how, you know, it empowers you to make these really Technicolor music, and you can kind of just go for broke with, you know, which I think in pop music, you always sort of have to have this layer of coolness or detachment or sort of edifice. Whereas I think there's something about the comedic approach that just enables you to kind of go for broke and do things that are over the top or do things that, say what they do on the tin.
I think everyone who is listening to us right now is thinking, how the heck can I hear this album and this song that Weird Al performs on? When are people going to get to actually hear it?
Well, I've got to finally get Al's lawyer to sign off. And I think he's going to he said 2026 is the earliest we can slate it for release.
Got it.
No, I'm that's not that joke. The level of silence was like, oh, they're taking me seriously now. I need to stop. No, they're lovely. They're good to go. If I'm running the Kickstarter, which will end March 10th, but anybody who comes in, basically, I'm going to deliver the album at the end of the period of the Kickstarter for the people who back the album. But if you don't want to back and you just want to wait to hear it on platforms, it's probably going to be on Spotify in the fall. So if you want to hear it right away, the best move is obviously join the Kickstarter, help contribute. You'll get my eternal gratitude for paying an inflated price for my product. But you will get to hear it immediately, basically, in the next few weeks.
I love the song so much that I don't think if I was listening to this right now, I would be able to wait until the fall. So I highly recommend people check it out. Check out the Kickstarter. It's bit.ly/middle of something. That'll get you right to the Kickstarter. And this will probably be the only way for people to get the physical CD and vinyl copies of the album.
Yeah, either that or you got to, come to a show. But I wouldn't wish that on anyone. So if you're remotely interested, do yourself a favor, make a digital order, and be done with it.
And I'm also excited because as part of the backer experience, you and Dave Way are going to be talking through each track on the album. So I'm actually really looking forward to all of that, but especially the one where you're talking about We Should Have an Affair.
Yeah, I've got all that recorded and I'm slowly editing it. So now that you guys got me excited, I'm supposed to edit one tonight. I'm like, maybe I'll edit that one since I've got us yammering about each song. And I'm sort of bit by bit dropping these little behind the scene interviews that I did with Dave, which he was so gracious to take the time to do. And I'm also doing some live streaming as well. I mean, I found in the past I would do a lot more for the backers, and I just feel like less is more. Not like it's just, people are so all over the place. I'm like, let me just communicate with them once a week. And here's the thing. And, and obviously people will get what they pledge for. And I'm starting to try and run the Kickstarter campaign that I want to be a part of, AKA don't send me 8 million emails, please. Just like, I gave you money and I don't want to hear an update every day about everything. It's just like, oh God, here's the money, go away. And so I'm trying to keep it interesting and keep it content based. So that's always a struggle.
And Julian, you have a live performance coming up at the end of this week on Friday. Would you tell us about that?
Yeah, absolutely. I don't know who here is in Los Angeles who's listening to this, but I will be playing this Friday, February 16th at the Lyric Hyperion. And essentially it's this kind of one-man show that I'm developing in tandem with the album, which is a lot of the material from the album, but it draws upon some of my past songs. And it's essentially me bantering through the record. And it all takes place as if you came to a piano bar, which is basically where I play. That's how I make a living when I'm not doing it. So people are going to walk in. The first thing they're asked is to request a song from a list of songs they get. And it's like the 50 worst songs that you don't want to request, which is my life, which is just Living on a Prayer, Brown Eyed Girl, Don't Stop Believing, Total Eclipse of the Heart, just all the worst songs ever. And then I basically hijack the gig and do my own stuff. That's essentially the gag. But it's super fun. I'll do that at the Lyric Hyperion on Friday, February 16th. And then I'll do a CD. I'm going to do an album release in Boston and New York. And then hopefully, I haven't done it since before the pandemic, but I had a record deal in London in a different life. And so I spent a lot of time over there. And I hopefully will go overseas and do some stuff in London and Holland on this next tour.
Oh, that'd be so cool.
Yeah, it's great. It's a little trickier now that I live on the West Coast. When I was living in New York, it was a much easier trip. But yeah, the album will start kind of, I think the first single will come out sometime in March, probably after the Kickstarter closes. And then I'll start basically drip feeding stuff out, with making little music videos for each one. And yeah, and we'll see, how I'm able to kind of put together the whole packaging around it. I mean, but to be honest, the Kickstarter is kind of the most fun part about it. It's the part when you get to people care the most because there's a built-in drama. Will you make the money you need? Newsflash, I've already made the money.
Yeah.
But I did set it lower than I actually need for artificial drama. So yes, I still need money. Please give me money. Give me all the money. And one of the things I've gotten there is a stretch goal where if we get to a certain number, I'm going to repress vinyl of this. It's the 10-year anniversary of one of my albums, which is called If You Don't Like It, You Can Leave. It's a New York City concept record that people love and have been wanting on vinyl for forever. So in the off chance that you even know who I am and you care about my music, you might be excited by that reality. So if I get to this, so there's still some drama built in to the Kickstarter, but it's kind of the most fun because it's when people care the most. It's when you get the most direct outpouring from people who like your music. Otherwise, it's just all content now. It's just like all things that come at you from all angles. And so I never blame anybody when I send them the record and they're like, I haven't listened yet. I mean, that's why I'm so psyched you guys listen. I'm kind of like, here you go. I know it's your job, but maybe you'll know, who knows how people listen these days. So, which sort of makes it more meaningful when people say they did listen, in a weird way. Cause it's like, oh, wow, you chose to do this. It wasn't just like shoved down your throats. You sought this out, which is what's so cool about the Kickstarter. You get to really see how people, the passion really comes out.
Yeah,
absolutely. Julian, this has been so much fun. Thank you for telling us about the album and working with Al. And we cannot wait for In the Middle of Something to come out. And we literally cannot wait, which is why we have backed the Kickstarter. And we
you guys listen up, all you Al fans out there. These are 1 and 2. All right. And I don't say that like these guys don't play around. They literally bought every physical expression of this so that they can be completists.
That's right.
So this is especially directed to Mike Duquette and Lex Friedman, but also all the other Al fans. You are second to Ethan and Dave, okay? I shouldn't say that. Lex is going to call me literally as soon as he hears this podcast. Like, bro, why, what's up? Do we need to go over this now? No, I mean, I just know it gets competitive with the. I mean, I can't. The Al guys don't play around, so no, I'm very grateful that, and it's cool to be. Whatever part of his continuing thing, like it's like a nice fun thing to see that. They were very Jay and him, especially Jay, they were incredibly guarded about the way I used his name, and I was like, oh, why are they making such a big deal out of it? And as soon as I posted that thing, I was like, oh, now I see why. It's just like he has this incredibly rabid, loyal fan base, which is so exciting to just to see firsthand because no one gives a shit about me. Which is totally fine. I'm okay with that. I'm a dad now. It's fine. I'm okay. I'm dead inside. No.
But now all the Al fans will get to experience your music, which is really wonderful.
That is wonderful. They're gonna be like, this isn't that funny. No, they're gonna love it. I'm excited to it's super cool, and I'm flattered that you guys reached out to have me on the show.
Absolutely. Julian, we can find you on Instagram at Julian Velard. We can find your website, julianvelard.com. And we can also head over directly to the Kickstarter. bit.ly/middle of something will get us right there. We have until March 10th, 2024. So we're going to head over, and maybe I'm going to back it twice. I'll do it from a burner email.
No, stop. Don't do that.
Thank you so much for joining us.
Thanks for having me, guys. Really appreciate it.
Julian's new album, In the Middle of Something, is so good. You do not want to wait until later this year to hear it. The only way to hear the track with Weird Al on it and the album in its entirety before the official release is to support Julian's Kickstarter over at bit.ly/middle of something.
Or
what?
We could world premiere the song!
I'm not sure. Is that even legal?
Sure, why not? It's probably legal, I guess.
How about we just play part of it so that the RIAA doesn't get too mad at us?
Good idea. So without further ado, please enjoy this world premiere clip of Julian Velard's We Should Have an Affair featuring Weird Al Yankovic.
We should have an affair.
Throw our pants in the air.
Tie someone to a chair.
Sure.
We should have an affair.
is amazing.
Oh my gosh, Julian, where are we?
Rachel, I think we're in Paris.
Paris? I've always wanted to go to Paris.
This bread is so good.
Oh, it's so fresh. What do they call this? Pain au chocolat?
Oh my, that clip is so much fun, but the full song is even better. Be sure to support Julian's Kickstarter over at bit.ly/middle of something, and make sure you follow him over on his Instagram over at Julian Velard. That's JulianVelard.
This episode is brought to you in part by Discover Darwin, promoting tourism in Darwin, Minnesota. Not only is historic Darwin, Minnesota, beautiful, it's also worldwide.
You know how for years we've been telling people after you visit Darwin, Minnesota, be sure to attempt to visit discoverdarwin.biz?
Yeah, of course. We literally say it every episode.
Well, why do we say to visit the website after you visit the town? Isn't that kind of backwards?
Ahem. Canadian Podcast Broadcast Corporation Tourism Division regulations.
You're right. Anyway, both you and I visited Darwin, Minnesota, but you know what? I don't think I've ever actually attempted to visit discoverdarwin.biz. Have you?
No. Do you think we should?
I don't know. I mean, it's a lot of letters. I don't feel like typing all that out.
Yeah, that's a good point. But what if we got intern Frank to do it?
Do you think he even knows how to spell discover? Or Darwin? Or biz?
Or dot, for that matter. Anyway, get this. I just learned that if you visit discoverdarwin.biz, you actually need to put the www and the dot in front of it first, or it won't work.
Whoa.
I know, right?
That's 4 extra keystrokes. Even if I was thinking of attempting to visit discoverdarwin.biz, there is no way I'm doing it now. Too much effort.
Wait, so if people are supposed to type www dot first, why doesn't it say so in the ad copy we read every week?
Oh, it does. It's right here under the mustard stain. See?
Huh. How about that? I wonder what else we're missing under all these mustard stains.
So visit Darwin, Minnesota on your next web expedition. Discover Darwin, more than just a twine ball. And after you visit Darwin, Minnesota, be sure to attempt to visit www.discoverdarwin.biz. Our next guests follow in the mighty weird footsteps of Prosthetic Lips, 26 and a half, Me, Myself, and I, Your Mother, Jonah Ray, and Metal Al.
Dave and I are very excited to welcome to the podcast. We've got 2 guys who are working on a brand new tribute album to Weird Al called Rudy Reboots WEIRD, a ska punk tribute to Al Yankovic. Please welcome to the podcast, Mike Huff and Berg. How's it going, guys?
Hey, thanks for having us.
Thank you very much.
So you guys have to tell us about this album that you're working on. It's coming out at the end of the month. Where did you get the idea to cover Weird Al songs in a ska/punk fashion?
We didn't actually. we put a poll out, like we put a post on Facebook and asked like who people wanted to hear us cover. We had just done, I think, the Day Bite Me Giants one at that time, and we put up a couple options, and Weird Al just took it.
Of course.
And we just jump on board whenever we can. We're like really happy to be a part of this.
So I understand you guys are each in your own bands in the sort of Philly-esque area. You want to tell us about the bands?
Yeah,
You go first, Mike.
Sure. So we're an arcade rock band called Bees, like all caps with an exclamation point, like you're in a horror, like you're in a horror movie running away from giant bees. We make like alternative rock music, punk music with like chiptune influence. So we have like some very heavy retro SNES video game influence in our music. And then we make video games on top of it too.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Awesome.
And the What Nows are one of our favorite bands too.
Yeah. So I'm lead singer and electric ukulele player of the What Nows.
That's incredible. I didn't know that was a thing.
Yeah, no, it's ridiculous. But we're a ska punk band, and basically I just kind of wanted to get our band out there a bit more. So I started this project during COVID times to try to like network a bit with bands and find people with common interests in musicians and start just putting out covers because it was COVID and we couldn't go play anywhere.
Right.
Yeah.
So, Berg, you started Rudy Reboots over the pandemic, and I know you mentioned a couple. What are some of the artists you've covered?
So, basically, during the pandemic, I was listening to a Ben Folds podcast, and I was like, I really want to cover Ben Folds. I love Ben Folds. I love his music. So that's actually how I started it. I was like looking for Ben Folds ska covers, and there wasn't like any recorded. So I was like, well, I'll do it myself. And I got other people involved and went into the forums of ska online and just kind of got a bunch of people together. And it's anybody from touring musicians to a kid with a Game Boy, like from Australia. And it's amazing.
That's awesome.
So yeah, we started with Ben Folds, and then I was like, what else like inspired me early on? And we did Bare Naked Ladies. That was the first cassette tape that I bought, was Maroon. And then after that, it was the They Might Be Giants one.
It's incredible.
I think the thing for us is we wanted to find that like Venn diagram of because we could do pop music any time, like and do somebody really, really like popular, like a Michael Jackson or something like that. But like everybody already does that. You can find a million covers of that. I wanted to find weird niche, like 90s influence at the same time as like ska. And that's kind of what we went with. But then we did theatrics, which was Broadway musicals. And then we did Gorillas. And now this is the last one that we're doing. So it's a bunch of nerd bands for the most part.
Incredible.
We definitely hopped on with They Might Be Giants. That was like, yeah, we're in. And then it was like, crap, not a ska band. What do we do? But we pulled it off.
Well, I love that choice of artists that you guys covered, because that's pretty much like when you talk to a Weird Al fan, these are all, bands in the genre of Broadway that come up quite often when talking to Weird Al fans. I mean, They Might Be Giants, Bare Naked Ladies, Ben Folds. This is just like the Weird Al is the next perfect step for you to cover. So I'd love for you to tell us a little bit about what songs we can expect on the new Weird tribute album.
Well, Mike, what song did you cover?
So back in 2020, like kind of the same idea that Berg had, I was sitting at my computer frustrated and trying to make sense of everything, and did a cover of Dare to Be Stupid. It wasn't a ska cover, but I played all the instruments. I like put it all together. It's always been one of my favorite Weird Al songs, So when the opportunity came up, it's like, Berg, we need to do Dare to Be Stupid. And so we put it together. Our synth player, our chiptune SNES player, who also plays Game Boy sometimes. We went to jazz school together. So I was like a bass player, he's a sax player, and he wrote all the horn parts and got some people to record them for us. And so we made it happen,
Wow.
Yeah.
So one thing that you should expect to hear on this is we wanted the rule that we didn't want parodies.
Oh, okay.
So none of the songs are parodies. We did allow pastiches, which obviously Dare to Be Stupid is one of them. We also went with the pastiche. We went with Everything You Know Is Wrong.
Perfect.
Great tune.
Which, it just lends itself to being a ska song.
Right.
You won't hear Horoscope because that is Weird Al's ska song.
Right. That would be too on the nose, right?
We did have someone signed up, but kind of the way with musicians in general, it's like herding cats dealing with musicians a lot of times. Because us and schedules are bad. Like my band's album was actually supposed to come out 5 months ago, but we were recording yesterday some trumpet while the Swifter Bowl was on. But yeah, there's 10 total songs on it, and they're all originals. Biggest Ball of Twine in Minnesota.
Nice.
Nice.
Yeah, it sounds like you guys are picking some good songs.
And we just let people do it. Like, we just kind of go, hey, first come, first serve. Hit me up in my DMs and tell me which song you want to do.
They're really awesome about being flexible and kind of letting you do like okay, our band would do, well on this, especially us not as a ska band, I don't know. They've been really cool about letting us do our thing,
And we have had quite a few artists that don't do ska music, just do ska music. Like the guy Alex with his Game Boy, he's not typically making ska music, and a lot of people aren't. But that's the thing is, I took a lot of inspiration from. Have any of you guys watched the AV Undercovers?
No, I don't know that one.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I have.
Basically, it was like an AV club thing, and they'd bring a bunch of musicians in, and there'd be a list of songs that they had to cover. Like They Might Be Giants have done it, Ben Folds have done it.
Oh,
a lot
okay.
of people.
I didn't know what it was called, but I'm familiar with it. Yeah.
Okay, yeah, like Guar doing Kansas.
That's the one that always sticks. That always sticks out to me. Yeah, it's awesome.
Or like Jeff Rosenstock, who's very well beloved in the ska community. So that was a big inspiration. Was the idea of like, even if you're not a big, because we have people that like aren't the biggest Weird Al fans making Weird Al covers just because it's like, this is a fun project. Like I just did Annie on Broadway, which is not something I'm typically listening to, and now I'm doing Weird Al. So like it's kind of like an art for art's sake challenge almost.
Are you guys Weird Al fans? It sounds like it.
Absolutely.
I would say,
yeah.
I would say I'm definitely a Weird Al fan, but I'm more of a casual Weird Al fan. There's definitely like I don't watch UHF every year.
What?
But I don't. I'm sorry.
No, there's place for all shapes and sizes of Weird Al fans, but it's great that you guys are both Weird Al fans and you're putting together this really cool project. And I really hope people will check out Rudy Reboots. You can follow them on Facebook, and you can also just head right to rudyreboots.bandcamp.com, and that's where once this comes out, people can download it, but they can also check out the They Might Be Giants one, the theatrical ones, the Gorillas, Bare Naked Ladies, and Ben Folds. They're so much fun to listen to. Cannot wait to get to hear an entire album of Weird Al ska punk covers.
Me either. I'm really excited to hear everybody else's. This is awesome. Llama Tsunami was great on the last one we did. Like I'm super excited.
Yeah, they're doing Nature Trail of Hell.
Oh, nice.
I've actually heard all of them, so I don't have to wait for anything.
There you go.
Because I'm the guy that collects all of the cats.
You're the guy who has to do the work though too, so we appreciate you, man. Thank you for that.
No, that's also my guitarist. I just get the files and send them to my guitarist to upload
awesome.
them for me, so that I can change the names of the files. I deal with more of like the getting the copyrights and that end of it.
Right.
I would love for you to tell us a little bit about the album cover for Weird, a ska punk tribute to Al Yankovic.
Our buddy Andrew, he has been doing the art for all of our albums, and he came up with the logo for Rudy Reboots for us. He also hasn't charged for his graphic design, and I thank him much for that, because I'm a broke musician. So I'm already paying for t-shirts for my actual band and stuff. And yeah, we haven't really made merch for this project just because there wasn't really the backing or interest in it. But because this is actually our final Rudy Reboots, we are ending the project.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, so this is actually going to be the final one. We did have more planned, but it just seems like it was time to maybe put it down. But with this one coming out, maybe like we'll put it out on the leap year, and maybe next leap year we'll think about it. But it's definitely because I mean we've been on every single one, so we're recording like 3 covers a year and our own album at the same time. So it's just been a lot of time to also do.
Yeah.
Weird Al's a great one to wrap it up with, though. I don't know. I feel like it's like a culmination, of the project, like Weird Al. Yeah.
I don't think you could end on a higher note. Yeah, that's incredible.
Exactly. Yeah, right. Yeah.
But so I talked to Andrew and I was like, hey, this is what I'm thinking for the album art. And basically we just decided to parody our own logo. And just have him dress up as Weird Al.
Perfect.
Mike Berg, thank you guys so much for joining us. We'll definitely be checking out the Weird Al tribute album, Rudy Reboots Weird, a ska punk tribute to Al Yankovic, over at rudyreboots.bandcamp.com. and we can't wait to hear all of these awesome covers. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thanks for having us, guys.
Thanks for having us.
Thank you, Mike and Berg. We are so excited to hear the album when it's expected to drop later this month. Be sure to keep an eye on rudyreboots.bandcamp.com and check out their other tribute albums while you are there as well.
You know, Dave, we already did a world premiere of one of Julian's songs.
Oh, I know where this one's going.
What if we did a world premiere of one of the tracks from the upcoming Rudy Reboots WEIRD, a ska punk tribute to Al Yankovic?
Surely 2 songs in one episode must be illegal. Why would we want to dare to be stupid?
Put down that chainsaw and listen to me. It's time for us to join in the fight. It's time to let your babies grow up to be cowboys. It's time to let the bedbugs bite. You better put all your eggs in one basket. You better count your chickens before they hatch. You better sell some wine before it's time. You better find yourself an itch to scratch. You better squeeze all the Charmin you can while Mr. Whipple's not around. Stick your head in the microwave and get yourself a tan.
And that was the world premiere of Dare to Be Stupid from the upcoming Rudy Reboots WEIRD, a ska punk tribute to Al Yankovic by Mike Huff's band Bees!
Absolutely incredible. I cannot wait to hear Berg's band, the What Nows, cover Everything You Know Is Wrong and all the other tracks. I'll be skanking the night away.
Yeah, Dave, I know that's technically the word for dancing to ska music and all, but please do me a favor and never, ever use that term again. Anyway, Dave and Ethan's 2000-inch Weird Al podcast is brought to you absolutely free thanks to our incredible sponsors, Burrito, Wizard Burger, our very own Jackson Scoggins, and Discover Darwin. Our podcast is also supported by everyone else in our Patreon family, with special thanks to our very own close personal friend level Patreon supporters, Ajax, Gus and Alicia, Adriana, Jake, UH Jeff, Kenneth, Allison, Dana B, Casey, Scotto, Javier, Kev, Ron, Matt, Zeb, Zach, Blair. Also thanks to our newest Patreon supporters, Brian and Matt, and everyone else in our pretty stinking majestic Patreon family.
If you enjoy skanking to our Weird Al podcast, as heard in the commentary track on the brand new Weird Al Yankovic Story Steelbook, please consider supporting us over at patreon.com/2000inch. There are awesome benefits like getting your name on the podcast, your very own private RSS feed, which gives you early access to each and every single bonus episode, as well as the self-satisfaction of doing something important with your otherwise pitiful, meaningless existence.
Once you join, you'll be the first and only ones to see the very special videos from my private SF Sketchfest vault, coming really soon. And don't forget to check out our official merchandise over at shop.2000inch.com. All proceeds from purchases go directly towards supporting our fine podcast.
We love hearing from our listeners and other Weird Al fans, so be sure to join our Facebook community over at group.2000inch.com and visit our skanking Discord server for even more riveting Weird Al and Red Rump the Goody related conversations. You can find both of them linked on our website, as well as information about past episodes and guests over at www.2000inch.com or www.weirdalpodcast.com.
Keep up on new episodes, podcast news, and events by following at 2000inch on Facebook, X, Threads, and Instagram. And be sure to subscribe everywhere you listen to podcasts so you don't miss a single episode. Not only does subscribing help the podcast, it means you're automatically our Valentines. Pull out sweet, love it when we receive voicemail via official patent pending 27-hour-a-day podcast hotline 347 Spatula, as seen in the Illustrated Al, the songs of Weird Al Yankovic. That number is 347-772-8852. Give it a call or a text, and you might even hear your message in a future episode, or if you're really quick, this episode.
Thank you once again to our guests, Julian Velard, Mike Huff, and Andrew Berg, for joining us this episode. Thank you to the amazing Dana B, Mike Duquette, Spencer Parks, Claire Walsh, the What Nows, and Bees! Thank you to the Grammy Award-winning Jim Kimo West for our skanking podcast theme song, and thank you to the 17-time Grammy-nominated Weird Al Yankovic, as this podcast probably would not exist without him. And a big thank you to all of you, our loyal listeners, subscribers, Patreon supporters, and sponsors, and everybody, and I mean everybody else who makes our podcast possible.
Thank you for choosing Dave and Ethan's 2000-inch Weird Al podcast. And until next time, remember to kill and chill, keep listening to Weird Al, and stay cheesy.
Okay, well, another successful episode in the bag. It looks like we should...
Whoa! Cutting it a bit close, calling the 347 Spatula Hotline, the official hotline of Dave and Ethan's 2000-inch Weird Al podcast, this late in the episode, huh, Dave?
I'll say. All right, well, let's do it. Why not? All right, intern Frank, let's hear it.
Hey, guys, it is your Weird Al pal, Spencer, here from the podcast The Dictionary. So it sounds like I need to settle a little bit of a dispute here. We're talking about the word chromanacker. Yeah, so I did actually record this for my podcast. It was in the dictionary, in fact, but, I cut it out from the episode that it was supposed to be in because it was a little off, a little weird. So yeah, here's the clip. I pulled it out of the archives just for you. The next word is chromanacker, noun from 2024. Wow, this is a new one, and my book isn't even from 2024. My book is like 2014. How'd that get in here? Okay, well, the etymology says that this is from the Greek word chroma, which means color, and then also the word knacker, K-N-A-C-K-E-R, which dates back to 1812 and is one who slaughters old or sick horses? What? Okay. Okay, well, it's kind of connected to, a word that we sometimes use, knackered, with an ED, and that just means, really tired. So what are the definitions for this one? That etymology is weird. Okay, number one who murders colors. One who murders colors. This is an odd word. Okay. Number two, one who dyes dead horses. One who dies, that's D-Y-E-S, like tie dyes. One who putting color on dead horses. Tie-dyeing horses? Is that what putting color on tie? Well, that's kind of, wait, but they're dead. Okay, so I don't like that one. I don't like tie-dyed dead horses. I'm sure they look very pretty, though. All right, number three, this is the last definition. This is a musical instrument that Dave Elvis Rossi says he has started to learn to play, but Ethan Allman says it doesn't exist, and they even needed yours truly, Spencer James Parks, from the podcast The Dictionary, to prove to them that they are, in fact, both right and wrong at the same time. It's like a Schrodinger's definition. But a side note, using the word Schrodinger as an eponym like this is problematic because he did bad things, and this is a family show. So if you want to learn more about that, go check out episode 169 entitled The Box from the podcast The Allusionist with an A. So if you want to learn more about that. Wow, that was a really long definition. So I guess my best guess on this musical instrument is that as you play it, it creates and forms lots of really cool colors in the air, like maybe that thing that Fry played in Futurama, if you ever saw that episode. And then maybe horses who are nearby just fall down dead. That's not good. I don't like this instrument. I think it needs a warning label, like no horses or centaurs allowed in the vicinity within 2,000 inches. I think that would help. Who's buying this instrument? Dave Elvis Rossi is buying this instrument, I guess. Dave, I hope you don't live on a stable. Also, we have a little bit more. Chromanackerd is an adjective, which I assume just means someone who has either killed a lot of colors all day or tie-dyed a lot of dead horses, and they're just really pooped from a hard day's work. So that's chromanackerd, comes from chromanacker. Well, Okay, I hope that clip cleared everything up for you guys. Can't wait until the next episode. And I think I need to check out the fake Sully G and the real Sully G's YouTube channel because that instrument and the sounds sound really awesome, and I love it. Okay, talk to you guys later. Bye.
I told you, Ethan. I told you Kramenacker was a real word.
And I told you I didn't hear it on Spencer's podcast, so we are both right. Anyway, how's the instrument working out for you? Learned any new songs yet?
Not really. I got bored with it after like 11 seconds.
It's too bad. I was really hoping the next Weird Al tribute album could be performed entirely on the Kramenacker.
Okay, that's it. I am back in. Put me down for Albuquerque.
Don't you think you should start with something a little easier?
Hey now, who's the Kramenacker virtuoso here?
That was Dave and Ethan's 2,000-inch Weird Al podcast, episode 221-inch.
Skank you. Skank you very much.
I said I was the most famous accordion player in the world. I never said I was the best accordion player in the world.